So the way the deck operates is to win the game with either Banefire or Fight with Fire, and Fight with Fire kicked, Banefire for X equals 10 at least, and a doubling effect, and the doubling effect is either a Primal Amulet or the third chapter of the Mirari Conjecture. And by doubling 10 damage with Banefire or Fight with Fire, we deal 20, and against most opponents that's enough to win the game. And then the rest of the deck is basically just a blue-red control deck. So we've got all the usual suspects. We've got some early Magma Sprays, Abrades, Lightning Strikes, which can also deal 3 damage in case they gain a bit of life. We've got Fight with Fire, which is just a fire removal spell. Sweltering Suns as a nice sweeper, as well as Hour of Devastation. And Banefire can also double up as removal. It's also important in this deck to have a nice split between instants and sorceries for Mirari Conjecture, so we can get back in instant and sorcery with the Conjecture. And then a bunch of counter spells. We've got 3 Essence Scatters, 4 Disallows, a Commit Memory, and then we have a whole bunch of card draw as well. We've got 2 Search for Azcantas, which transform into Azcanta, which is great at helping us find our missing pieces, whether that's a doubling effect or one of our win conditions. We've got Disallows we've covered, we've got 2 Divinations to draw cards, sorcery for the Conjecture, which is important, and then Glimmer of Genius also helps us get a little bit more card draw, and also an instant we can get back with the Conjecture. And then Primal Amulet giving all our spells a discount can also be nice. Don't think we need more than 1 copy. 1 copy seems like the sweet spot with this card. Otherwise it starts getting a bit clunky. And then, did I miss anything else? We've got a Blink of an Eye, which can also blink our own Mirari Conjecture. So in response to the third chapter, we can kind of bounce our own Conjecture so we can get it back in hand. But of course we can always use the Blink of an Eye just as a bounce spell, which is fine too. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. The mana base is pretty straightforward. We've got a few copies of Field of Ruin to answer opposing Search for Azcantas. All the blue-red dual lands that come into play untapped most of the time. 8 mountains and 9 islands. Don't have a sideboard built yet, since I'm usually only playing this in Quick Constructed. But if you were to build a sideboard, it probably includes some negates, maybe a few extra cheap removal spells, maybe some Chandra's defeats. I don't think it's too difficult to build a sideboard for this deck. Maybe a Sorcerer's Spyglass to name Planeswalkers against control decks. That's also a card you could consider for the sideboard. So yeah, that's the deck. I'll be happy if we get our 4 wins with this deck. But we can hope for more. Alright, this hand seems acceptable. Our nice blood red island. Alright, Concealed Courtyard. And don't care about Authority of the Consuls whatsoever. So that's nice. Opponent hedging for those aggro decks. Is this control and burn? It's more like control and combo, since the burn happens in 10 damage increments. Yeah, Aetherborn's annoying enough that I'm willing to Essence Scatter it. We don't love having Banefire in our opening hand, but it might be reasonable as just a removal spell here. Alright, so opponent on a black-white, maybe some life gain sub-theme. Do we use Field of Ruin? I guess we do. They might have some deserts in there, but just want to thin out our deck mostly. Don't expect them to have any lands like Azcanta that we need to take care of. And this way we can kind of get an extra blue source, which could be useful. Alright, so we could jam Mirari Conjecture. The issue is that we don't have a ton of stuff to get back with it. And then we would be tapping out, which can be risky. So I'd rather just sit on the Disallow and then try and make use of our Banefire before we play the Conjecture. Alright, let's see what our opponent's doing. If they play a creature that dies to Banefire, we probably let it resolve. Like the Sejani Sprite Mate. Can they gain life this turn? Who knows? Alright, so we could play Banefire for 2 and keep up Disallow, but if our opponent has a way of gaining a life at instant speed, that could go very poorly. So I think I would rather Abrade the Pridemate for now, even though using Banefire is better in the face of Conjecture. So should we Abrade right now, or should we keep up Abrade? That's an interesting question. I think we'll keep it up. It's unlikely that they gain life twice at instant speed. And it might change our decision. If we had an extra land, then going for the Abrade would be different. Interesting. Aetherflux Reservoir. So that's an interesting target for Abrade as well. Or we can just disallow it. And the problem is, if we Abrade the Reservoir, the Pridemate might get a little bigger, but I guess it's fine. Then we just Banefire the Pridemate next turn, and we may or may not have Disallow up. Alright, let's Abrade the Reservoir. And now their opponent only has 1 mana up. Banefire for 2 is pretty safe, although we could just Banefire for 3 to be extra safe. And then we're in a pretty good spot since we get to keep up Disallow, and next turn, if we draw land especially, we can play Conjecture with Disallow backup, get back, or Abrade or Essence Scatter, Banefire, who knows. Alright, another Pridemate. Is that grounds for Disallow? I don't think so. Want to keep our Disallow for non-creature threats. Alright, perfect. We drew the land. So now we can Conjecture, get back Essence Scatter. Next turn, get back Banefire. Think, could also go and get Abrade, I guess. Maybe that's better. Yeah, I can buy that. We'll have to be careful with the life gain at instant speed part. Alright, opponent on taps. We probably just take 2 from the Pridemate and Abrade end of turn, so that we get to keep up Disallow. And that's something you'll often do as the control deck. Using removal end of turn to keep up the possibility of being able to counter something scary. Ooh, Vona, for example, is quite scary. Alright, so now we get back our Banefire. And we're pretty close to Banefire for 10. But not quite. But what we can do is play another Conjecture. Get back Essence Scatter. And then Abrade the Pridemate right now. Seems relatively safe. Since their opponent appears to be mostly based around creatures. Is draft the best way to increase your collection? It depends. If you don't have a lot of cards from the set you're drafting, then it might be a good way. If you already have a lot of cards from the set, then draft might not be the best, since you can get wild cards with it. Alright, so we can Banefire. We're 1 mana short of killing our opponent here. We can Banefire for 9 and deal 18 to them. I guess it's still okay. The issue here is that we didn't get back Banefire with the second chapter of Conjecture. So we'll kind of be on empty, since we haven't found any draw spell yet. So maybe using the Conjecture last turn was a mistake. Or we could just hang on to the Banefire and then try to top deck a land next turn, and then we could Banefire for 10. And if they don't have any way of gaining a life, they die. I guess that's better. Give ourselves the out of drawing a land to win the game if they don't gain life. And otherwise keep the Banefire to answer a creature. Trespasser's Curse, doesn't matter. Alright, did not draw the land we were hoping for. Did find a Sweltering Suns, I guess. Putting our opponent to 2 life is fine. So yeah, we were hoping to find a land here for the win, but we're still pretty close. And the Sweltering Suns might be able to catch a creature they play here. And there's our land. So we can cycle the Sweltering Suns, or we can just cast it, get rid of the Aetherborn. There's reasons to do both. I guess we'll just cast it for now. Does our opponent have a response? Moment of craving their own Aetherborn to gain 2 life, sure. Got another one. So we do have enough mana here where if we draw Fight with Fire, we win the game. If we find another Conjecture and get back our Banefire, that's probably enough. So we're not in a bad spot. The 2 enchantments our opponent has in play don't affect us whatsoever. And we haven't drawn any actual card draw spells yet, so those are still in the deck. Alright, that's a scary card. Do they have something to go alongside it? Not yet, and a commit is nice. So we could commit the Bloodlord or use it as a counterspell. I guess we're fine taking 2, but we might commit it end of turn, and then we can even consider using the memory part to draw 6 cards, or draw 7 cards rather. But we'll be also giving the opponent 7 cards, so we'll see. Pridemate dies to the Magma Spray. So our opponent needs a way to gain life here. Nightmarish Thirst on the Pridemate. Let's Magma Spray in response. And now that fizzled, so they didn't even gain a life, so the Bloodlord doesn't trigger. Could still consider using the commit on the Bloodlord here, but I feel like we're better off keeping it in hand for now. Alright, I guess we're fine using this. And now we have a counterspell in case they draw something relevant. And just waiting to find one of our card draw spells. Or we can cast Memory if we're feeling like we're not gonna find something in time. But I don't think we're that desperate yet. How does rotation work in Arena? We don't exactly know the details for rotation yet. But in Standard, cards will be rotating out of Standard in around a month. Alright, so now we might want to commit to Pridemate. And then we might cast Memory in our turn if we don't draw anything. We didn't draw anything. And we could play the land first, but since it's a tap land, we're pretty likely to find an untapped one. So I think we just Memory. And then hope to draw something relevant here. Alright, we did draw some relevant cards. So can't quite kill our opponent though. What we can do is go Primal Amulet into Divination. Draw some extra cards. Get a counter on the Amulet. And Fight with Fire next turn can deal quite a bit of damage to our opponent. So let's play tap land for now, say go. And then next turn a kicked Fight with Fire could be enough to kill them depending on what they have. Alright, opponent just taps out for a Bloodlord. So it looks like this Fight with Fire should be game. And a Moment of Triumph is not going to change that. Alright, sweet. Alright, how about this one? Seems okay. I've got Azcanta to help us find more lands. Some early interaction on the play. So I'll keep. Up against the green deck. Triple Spirebluff Canal start. Well, I guess we would rather draw them now than later. Alright, green-black. And Thorn Lieutenant. Alright, so our two sweeper effects look pretty good against green-black. And we kind of want to keep lands. But on the other hand, we kind of want to find some draw spells or counter spells. This is a tricky one, since our deck does want to hit their land drops pretty consistently. Sulfur Falls is a bit awkward since it enters the battlefield tapped. I think we put it in the graveyard for now. Alright, find a Divination, that's pretty good draw here. Since our Sweltering Suns is likely to kill whatever they play next turn anyway, so tapping out this turn instead of keeping up Disallow seems reasonable. Alright, Brontodon survives the Sweltering Suns. So I guess we'll be taking a beating for a turn or two and then keeping up Disallow. And another Spirebluff. I guess now we keep it. Reasoning being, we can play it this turn, keep up Disallow, and next turn we can Hour of Devastation to clear the board. And we don't want to risk not drawing our land for Hour of Devastation. And now we got all the Spirebluffs in place, so we can no longer draw them later, so that's good. Alright, double Disallow. The only scary part here is that our opponent will get to potentially play something big the turn after we cast Hour of Devastation. So we're hoping they kind of overextend here. Alright, perfect. So that doesn't need countering. Alright, so Island is interesting. Don't think we need to keep it on top necessarily. And we would like to flip Azcanta sooner rather than later. Fight with Fire could be useful too. So we could go Sweltering Suns plus Lightning Strike the Brontodon. Or we could just Hour of Devastation here. Opponent could be playing Ronas, in which case keeping Hour of Devastation is useful. But keeping the instant speed spot removal can also be nice. I guess we just Hour of Devastation for now. It's a bit cleaner. We might cycle the Sweltering Suns at a later point. And now we have the option of going Lightning Strike plus Fight with Fire to take out a Gearhulk. Alright, Vinemare's gonna get answered by the Sweltering Suns, and we're hoping for a land here. Alright, no land. So let's Sweltering Suns and hope they don't have another Vinemare. And then next turn we're likely to transform Search. Having our 2 win conditions in hand is a little awkward. Would rather draw those later. Alright, that's acceptable. And I think I'm okay using a Lightning Strike here and giving them an Elf token. Alright, so far so good. And, ooh, Mirari Conjectures, a spicy one. I guess we'll keep that on top. And then transform, but we might not play it this turn. So I'm actually considering using Banefire for 1 on the Elf Warrior token, just so we don't take any unnecessary damage. Still get to keep up Disallow. And the major reason is that we don't get to Azcanta plus keep up Disallow, so using 2 mana on Banefire doesn't really cost us much. Since if we don't have to use our Disallow, we can still Azcanta. Alright, Steel Leaf is something that dies to Fight with Fire, so that's fine. Really want to keep our Disallows for cards like Verger's Gearhulk, for example. Or Vinemares, although we already killed 2 of them. And what do we want to get? Probably the Abrade, since that answers Gearhulk. Alright, land was good. So now we get to, let's see, 6, 7. Alright, so we can Fight with Fire. I guess we might as well have tapped the Field of Ruin, but I guess it doesn't matter. No kicker, just kill the Steel Leaf for now. Say go with Disallow. And we still get to Azcanta end of turn if we want to. So we're in a pretty good spot. Opponents are likely to have some removal spells dead in their hand. Alright, so now we're in control. Primal Amulet, Stamping, Magma Spray is a clean answer to the Elf. I guess Amulet's a bit better. And Essence Scatter was a good draw too. So I'm okay playing the Amulet here, as that still keeps up 2 counterspells. And then I'll probably take a beating from the Elf and then potentially Abrade at end of turn. We'll see. Heart of Kiran. Dies to Abrade. Sure. Just being extra conservative with our counterspells. Because why not? I'll take 1. And we could just Abrade the Elf as well. And then just counter all their creatures so they can't crew the heart. That's not unreasonable. Or we can just Abrade the heart. I guess I'll Abrade the Elf. Alright, so now could play Conjecture, get back something like an Abrade. And then next turn we can get back our win condition to close out the game. 6, 7, 8, 9. So let's get back our Abrade. And now we have Disallow Azcanta up. This is pretty close to transforming as well. Vinemare is definitely getting Azcanta. So that's their third Vinemare dealt with. And end of turn we can Abrade the heart, put an extra counter on the Primal Amulets. And now we have a lot of different ways to end the game. Let's get a Banefire. And I guess we're just saying go. Could also do this main phase in case we draw something like a Divination. Instead it's a blink, that's fine. We'll say go. We can even consider blinking our own Mirari Conjecture, but I guess Scrap Heap is a better target, so... Alright, the grand finale is gonna be Banefire doubled by Primal Amulet and Mirari Conjecture, but our opponent scoops it up. Alright, that's too bad. So we were gonna blink of an eye, the Scrap Heap, transform our Primal Amulet, and then we could have cast a Banefire for probably 10, doubled by Primal Amulet, or the land that transforms out of the amulet, and then doubled by Mirari Conjecture. So we would have dealt quite a bit of damage. Alright, sweet, so we're 2-0 with our Conjecture deck, let's keep it going. Alright, how about this hand? Seems okay. It's definitely lacking some key cards, don't have any counter spells, no card draw, but Azcanta is an important one to get down early, and we have some interaction with Lightning Strike, now Abrade as well. Up against a zombie deck. Should be a reasonable matchup if we can find our sweeper effects. And I think I'm gonna wait on the Azcanta here, since I don't want to take too much early damage. There's an argument for killing the Marshal in our turn in case of a weird combat trick. Might actually be mono black aggro instead of zombies. That's fine. I guess if they're mono black aggro, they could have the kind of bump spell that saves their creature if it gets destroyed. So yeah, that was probably a reason to kill their Marshal in our turn. But we're still killing it. Alright, they don't have it. And do we care about killing the Siphoner right away? So the question is, do we play Azcanta or do we Abrade right away? I think we're fine playing Azcanta. And then we have to decide whether to Abrade the Siphoner next turn or maybe cast Glimmer. A Rite of Bells Unlock, alright, that's an interesting twist. Could potentially disallow the trigger if we find a disallow. Divination's not bad either. But we already have a Glimmer in hand. How many extra card draw spells do we really need? Could always use more card draw, I guess. I think I'm still gonna put it in the graveyard. Try and transform Azcanta, maybe find a better answer to the 6/6 demon token. So this turn we have a few options. And we can Abrade the Siphoner so they don't get to draw any extra cards, but that kind of uses up our entire turn. We could Amulet and set up Glimmer plus Abrade next turn. Or we can just Glimmer right now and try and find an answer as soon as possible to the demon token. Those are all reasonable options. I kind of like getting the Amulet in play early, even though we're gonna take a beating. The only drawback of playing Amulet is that if we were to find a Disallow, it's gonna be too late since we won't be able to disallow the trigger. Unless, I guess, no, that works. We can still Glimmer for 3 mana, and then for 2 mana cast Disallow on the trigger. And prevent them from having a demon token. So what we'll be doing in our turn is just cast cast Glimmer main phase. If we find a Sweltering Suns, that also works. So we have a lot of good draws here. Hour of Devastation, Sweltering Suns. Conjecture might not be necessary. I think we'll put that in the graveyard. Draw. Alright, so want to make sure to keep up our dual lands, since that can let us both cast a Sweltering Suns and a Disallow on the trigger. So we'll just Glimmer for now, and hope to find one of those aforementioned cards. Alright, those are not those cards. I think we bottom both. Give ourselves the best chance of finding one of those cards, and Sweltering Suns perfect. So that's gonna mop up the opponent's board. And now the demon token's not looking all that hot. So on their next upkeep, they'll have to sacrifice a creature. Graveyard Marshal's not bad, since they can make a zombie right away. So they can potentially sacrifice that after we abrade the Marshal. Alright, so all we need to do is find a removal spell. Oh, well, that's a removal spell. So what I should have done, which I did a second too late here, is put a stop on our upkeep. So we could have abraded the Marshal, and then no matter what card we put from our library into our graveyard, we could have transformed Azcanta this turn. But I was a bit too late with putting the stop on our upkeep. But I guess given that we drew the Hour of Devastation, we'll keep it. And then just cast it, and then the demon will have to sacrifice itself, essentially. So that still works out. But casting a spell before Azcanta trigger resolves is definitely something that can come up. So demon has to sacrifice itself. Or no, it has to deal... Oh, it deals 6 damage to the opponent, never mind. I thought they had to sacrifice a creature. So I misread the demon, but that's okay. We can take 6. And I guess we're kind of winning the race in a weird way, if we can find any burn spell. That's fine, so next turn we'll probably just get to double abrade the demon. And we have plenty of answers in our deck. Acid Scatter, not quite. I think we want to transform Azcanta here. Alright, so let's activate Azcanta. Alright, those are all perfect answers. So actually what we could do... we're 1 point short of killing our opponent here. So what we could have done if we take Lightning Strike is opponents take 6 on their upkeep. We can abrade, just targeting anything, and then Amulet transforms, and then we can Lightning Strike doubled with Primal Amulet, put the opponent to 1, but the 1 is not 0. So what do we want to take instead? I guess we're still kind of forced to take the Lightning Strike here. But that works out fine, since what we can do is wait for the opponent to take 6, and they may or may not play a creature pre-combat, and then we can still kill the demon token with the doubled Primal Amulets. Or we can split it up and deal 1 Lightning Strike on the demon and the other one to the opponent's face, put them to 4. Yeah, for some reason I thought they had to sacrifice a creature every turn regardless, but instead they just take 6 if they can't. Alright, Chupacabra, so that actually plays in our favor, I think, since we would rather kill their creature than deal 3 damage to them. So, opponent is free to attack. Although I guess we could also just take 6 and let them kill themselves with the demon token. I guess that's fine too. So yeah, we can just Abrade the Chupacabra. This transforms. We'll take 6 from the demon down to 4. Opponent takes 6 on their upkeep from the demon down to 1, and then Lightning Strike finishes them off. So they probably should not have cast the Chupacabra main phase 1, since that gave us a lot of info. And Disallow is good insurance. Could even activate Azcanta, but I'm just gonna say go here. And I don't think our opponent can gain enough life here. Ooh, Fatal Push their own demon. Nope, you're not allowed. Alright, let's do this in their upkeep, I guess. Ah, too bad. Well, they knew about the Lightning Strike from the Azcanta. Well, that was an interesting game. By not killing the demon token, we kind of turned it into our win condition. But the correct play was probably just to Abrade the demon token when it took 5 damage from the Hour of Devastation there. Oh well, I'll take it. So we're 3-0. This hand seems fine. Early Azcanta, some interaction. That's all we need. That's all everyone needs, really. If I could get that every game, I would be a happy man. Up against what looks like a red-white aggro deck. Yeah, I'll keep a mountain. I'm not gonna be too greedy here. And I think I'm fine taking 2 from the knight. So we can keep up Essence Scatter, and then end of turn we'll Abrade it. Just in case they play a creature that we can't deal with Abrade. Alright, Danitha. I guess what we can do now is Abrade the knight and then fight with Fire Danitha. Or we can Essence Scatter Danitha, Abrade the knight. But I kind of want to Glimmer next turn. But Danitha we don't care about too much unless they start putting auras on her. So I'm not sure how high we have to value Danitha, since we don't know the opponent's deck list. A lot of options for sure. I guess it's safer to Essence Scatter Danitha and take 2 damage from the knight, as opposed to trying to Abrade the knight and leaving Danitha in play, if our plan is to Glimmer next turn. Conjecture's interesting as well, but we already have a Surge going and we're gonna cast a Glimmer, so I don't know how many extra card advantage kind of engines we need at the moment. I think I'm gonna lean towards putting it in the graveyard for now, make sure we hit our land drops and find enough interaction in the meantime. Alright, so now we can say go, keep up our counter spells and our removal spells, and end of turn maybe Glimmer. Ooh, Squee. Squee's actually kind of an issue for our deck. So that means we'll have to close out the game rather quickly, since Squee's eventually gonna keep coming back. But I guess for now it's fine. And a Falcon, alright. So now, if we can find a Sweltering Suns, that buys us a lot of time. I think we bottom both, even though I would like 1 land, but we're likely to draw 1 in our 3 draw steps here. Alright. And Island goes to the graveyard, and Lightning Strike the draw. Alright, so we can deal with the knight for sure, and then keep up Disallow. That seems reasonable. And I think I'll do it now in case of some random pump spell I'm not aware of. And I think using Lightning Strike's okay. They might have some artifacts that need abrading. So our plan this game is going to try to be to set up Fight with Fire with this Conjecture to deal 20 in one go. Honor Guard's fine. Doesn't bother me too much. Could even consider abrading Squee here if they tap out. But we'll see. I guess Abrade on Squee is fine. Opponent can't really play anything too scary. And we still have a Fight with Fire in hand. And this buys us quite a bit of time, especially if they don't have a land to replay Squee this turn. Ooh, and there's an equipment that we would not have minded abrading. So got punished a little bit, but not too badly, since to equip this on a normal creature it costs 7 mana, which they're pretty far away from, but it is a combo with Squee. Alright, so Divination. We would be transforming Azcanta if we put it in the graveyard. And it's also a nice one to have in the graveyard. So I guess we'll put it in the graveyard for now. The reasoning to put it in hand would be that we can cast it, and if we draw an island we get to keep up Disallow. I think that's pretty weak. I would rather have a transformed Azcanta. Alright, perfect. So now we can choose between playing the Mirari Conjecture, but then we don't get to keep up any other interaction. Or what's probably better is keep up Disallow, and then we can still activate Azcanta. And then wait on the Conjecture until we have a few extra lands in play, maybe. Alright, so they're replaying Squee. I guess that's fine. We'll take 2. And then we'll activate Azcanta. I guess we could activate Azcanta now as well. Make sure to keep up double blue. Alright, so more counter spells. Don't think we need a second Conjecture when we have Azcanta going. So I guess Blink is the most relevant card here. Pretty good against Squee if they try and equip. Alright, so let's try and hit some more land drops. And now we could go for the Conjecture, get back a removal spell like an Abrade, but then they're not gonna equip Squee. Kind of want them to spend their mana equipping Squee since we have the blink of an eye. We have how many lands in play? 8, so we need 2 more lands to be able to kick a Fight with Fire for lethal. So if we get back a Glimmer, we won't be able to play it yet, which is my main concern here, since if we could Glimmer, then we can kind of guarantee to hit our land drops until we can kick a Fight with Fire with the 3rd chapter of Conjecture. And if we play Conjecture now, then we might miss out. So where does that leave us? I think we wait one more turn, and then we could either Fight with Fire right now, which is reasonable, or we could kick the blink. I think I'm more interested in kicking the blink and activating Azcanta here this turn. Alright, Vanguard. Vanguard's mildly annoying since it survives our damage-based removal spells, so that's probably worth disallowing here. And then we're hoping they equip Squee and we get to bounce him with the blink. Alright, perfect. Alright, commit is a good insurance, and a land is also good. Alright, so now we can afford to Conjecture and get back Glimmer. And then we have both Commit and Glimmer up. And Glimmer is gonna make sure we hit our 10th land drop. I think that's relatively safe here. And then the kicked Fight with Fire with the 3rd chapter of Conjectures, probably gonna win us a game. So that's our plan here. They're 1 land short from equipping this onto a normal creature. Danitha. I guess that's fine for now. So they can equip the sword onto Danitha if they want to, but we can always bounce with commits. And the reason we want to Glimmer as opposed to just activate Azcanta is since we actively want to hit an extra land drop and Glimmer helps us there, while Azcanta does not. Now we could commit the Rustwing Falcon, but it only hits for 1 extra damage. I actually think... Although, I guess the concern is if they gain 2 life, then Fight with Fire is not lethal anymore. But same goes for Danitha. So that was actually a little annoying. Alright, I guess we're committing the Falcon here. And then ideally we find an answer for Danitha, so they don't gain the life. So we did find land number 10. Ooh, never mind, I forgot that Commit Memory, being both an instant and a sorcery, we can also choose it with Conjecture. That's a nice combo with it. So yeah, now we can just get back Commit Memory, and now we should have things locked up here. Since now we can just commit Danitha, and then next turn kicked Fight with Fire with the 3rd chapter, and that should be game. So yeah, I forgot about the Commit Memory interaction with Conjecture for a second. But yeah, this should do it. Squee doesn't do much. So they can equip Danitha. And then we can commit, I guess we'll do it now. And we even have the option of casting Glimmer or Azcanta here. Alright, so pretty interesting game here. Managed to avoid getting hit by any lifelink creatures. I guess we might as well. Ooh, Magma Spray on Squee and Honor Guard as well, but it's not really necessary. Kicker, Tanyu. Copy it, and Tanyu again. Bam! Well, we got our 4 wins with the deck already, which was kind of what I was hoping for. So we're definitely doing better than expected. And how are the quests going? We completed those. Alright, so now it's just gravy. Let's see if we can get those last couple wins. On the play, it's a little awkward having Conjecture and Amulet in our opening hand with only 2 lands. I think I mulligan this. Since if we miss a 3rd land drop for a draw or 2, then we're in some serious trouble. Alright, this is better. And do we keep a Sulfur Falls? We do want to hit our land drops, so I guess we keep it for now. And then we can kind of regulate our draws with Azcanta anyway. Alright, a blue deck with the Bowman Courier. So it might be a blue-red God First Gift type strategy. We're fine playing Azcanta here, and then we have the Abrade for the Courier. Alright, there's Ether Hub. So it could still be a blue-red gift deck. And there's Karizav, which I guess is a little strange. Hey, thanks for the 300 bits, Hypnochess, appreciate it. And I guess we'll keep a Lightning Strike since it seems to be useful in this matchup. Alright, so we could keep up Disallow, but I'm kind of assuming that whatever card they play dies to our Abrade as well. And I don't really want to take all the damage from Karizav. I guess I can maybe pass the turn, but if the blue is for counter spells, don't really want to get the Lightning Strike countered. So I think we just kill Karizav right now. And then say go. Alright, so they're pretty heavy into blue. Even Wind Mage. Alright, so... Conjecture is nice, but I don't think we want it, so we would rather find more removal spells for now. And Blink is perfectly acceptable. So now we get to say go with Disallow and Blink up. And we're probably gonna blink the Aven, is my guess, unless they play something bigger and scarier. Exclusion Mage, just a 2 mana 2/2 here. That's fine. Or a 3 mana 2/2, I should say. So yeah, we're probably just gonna blink, bounce the Aven. Opponent doesn't even have the red mana to sacrifice a courier yet. So let's cast this with Kicker, bounce a Wind Mage. And take one. Ooh, Sweltering Suns. I'll keep that, but I don't think I'm casting it yet, since we're going to try and get one extra creature with it. Maybe being a little greedy here, but I think it's okay. Still at 16, we can afford to take 3. Let them replay a creature and then get it with Sweltering Suns. Anticipate's a little unexpected, but sure. Well, hopefully they play another creature here, otherwise we're gonna look like a fool. Well, opponent's passing the turn. I guess we could also just Abrade the Exclusion Mage and keep the Sweltering Suns in hand for now. I'm not sure what the opponent's waiting for though. Yeah, whatever. Seems weird to want to anticipate. Maybe they were just really desperate to find a red mana and that's why they anticipated, but they didn't find it. Makes sense, I guess. Yeah, I'll keep it Disallow. So I'm fine taking some more hits from the courier. We can even disallow the courier if they try and sacrifice it if they do find red mana. Alright, so now I could disallow the Wind Mage, but I think now I'm fine casting the Sweltering Suns. Ideally we would find an extra land next turn so we can keep up Disallow as well. Alright, so I'll take a land. Don't think we need a third Disallow. Alright, we did find a land, but it's the Spirebluff, the only tap land in our deck at this point. Alright, I think we've been patient enough. Or have we? I think I'll say go. Can afford to take 3 more damage here, I think. And otherwise they get to resolve something and then we're facing a threat with 2 counterspells in hand, which is not ideal. Alright. Opponent's opting, that's fine. Pumping their Wind Mage. Alright, they did finally find their red mana. Just have to be careful that they don't just burn us out, which is definitely possible. Alright, that's okay, I guess. I would rather take 2 and not have to waste a Disallow. Alright, so could definitely get punished if her opponent just has a million burn spells in hand. Alright, Charter Course. Do we disallow Charter Course? I guess we do, since we don't want them drawing 2 cards. Since most of the cards in their deck seem pretty irrelevant. It's not like a deck with a bunch of removal spells that aren't burn spells. That can go. Transform. But we're in a pretty decent spot here. Get to clear the board and then have Azcanta and Disallow up. So as long as we have more counter spells than they have burn spells, we should be fine. Alright, Atlas is getting countered. So they were maybe a blue-red wizard deck, that makes sense. This is a wizard, this is a wizard. And the exclusion mage is a wizard. But now I'm gonna Conjecture, getting back Disallow. Seems safer than doing anything else. Are they gonna cast a Lightning Strike on our face? Could be. Do they have their own counter spells, maybe? Alright, Lightning Strike our face. Alright, so we are at 3, so that one turn where we waited with the Sweltering Suns could definitely come back to bite us. But we do have their next burn spell covered at least. So we just need to make sure to keep drawing counter spells. Alright, Shock. Shock is interesting. I think we let Shock happen since the difference between 2 damage and 3 damage, us being at 1 doesn't really make a huge difference as opposed to being at 3 life. Although that's not entirely true, there are exceptions. But I think we let this go. Alright, so now we can get back a sorcery. Sweltering Suns is our only one apparently. And now probably just saying go, and then we can activate Azcanta. And then still have our counterspell up. So we won't be killing our opponent anytime soon, which is an issue since the game is going to drag out, giving them plenty of opportunity to find a burn spell. But we do have all the card draw engines. Alright, so this one's annoying since if we don't find a removal spell, we actually now have to counter it, otherwise it kills us. But Lightning Strike's fine here, I guess. Keep our Disallow for a burn spell. And we want to make sure to kill it before it gets a card underneath it, so that they can't get a card out of it. Alright, there's our Fight with Fire, but we're 2 mana short from... or 1 mana short actually. So close. Yeah, if we had an extra land, then this Fight with Fire would have been lethal. Just kick it, and with the Conjecture active, that would have been game. But 1 mana short here. Alright, so what do we do? Guess we are activating Azcanta now. Looking for something, but I guess we don't know what that something is gonna be yet, so we might be better off saying go. Another courier. Oh well, I guess we're activating Azcanta again. And commits. Commit works. And I guess we would rather commit the courier than disallow it, since disallow is cheaper for the future. Alright, let's keep hitting our land drops. And I think we're just gonna do the same. Say go. Keep up Disallow and Azcanta. Hope they don't keep top decking hasty creatures. This is a hasty creature. I guess most of their deck is hasty creatures. But Magma Spray and Abrade are perfect answers. We should already have an Abrade in our graveyard, so that doesn't matter. I'll go with the Magma Spray. since we can still cycle the Sweltering Suns either way. This way we keep Abrade into our deck for whatever that's worth, and the extra damage could be relevant in the future, who knows. Alright, that's also a good one. So Primal Amulet gives us a way to double up the damage without Mirari Conjecture. So that seems like a good deal. So now we just need to get some counters on this, and then we can close out the game. We knew they were redrawing that. Can still activate Azcanta here, and then if we fail to find a removal spell, we can still disallow it. Alright, so we have to disallow here, otherwise we're dead. So we're out of counter spells now, which is a scary part. Well, Acid Scatter would have been better last turn. So we could Azcanta, we could Glimmer. I think we Glimmer because it puts an extra counter on the amulet, and they dig the same amount into our deck. And we would really like to find an extra Disallow, in case they find a burn spell off the top. Those are not Disallows. And we've got Acid Scatter for a creature, so we don't need the Magma Spray. Alright, Divination's not it. But I guess we still cast it here. Although now it's interesting, we could also activate Azcanta now, instead of casting Divination, since Azcanta digs deeper for a Disallow. Although I think... Yeah, we only have one Disallow left in the deck is the issue. The main argument for casting the Divination now is that we put an extra counter on the Amulet, and it might be relevant for a kicked Fight with Fire. So we could potentially win next turn if we just cast the Sweltering Suns with no value, cast Divination, this transforms, and next turn we have the win with Fight with Fire. But if they top deck a burn spell or a creature with haste, then I guess creature with haste doesn't do it. It has to be a burn spell specifically, since we have the Acid Scatter. So I think we go for the aggressive line here and try to close out the game next turn, and potentially give our opponent one turn to find an out. Although let's count our mana: 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. We should have enough mana to cast Suns and Kicked Fight with Fire, so actually we can still keep up Azcanta here and potentially draw into a Disallow. Alright, so hopefully no counterspell or no burn spell. Alright, Baral's fine. Can Acid Scatter that, and then that should be game next turn. So close one. Definitely could have played it more conservatively at the start of the game. Maybe it took a bit too much damage. Underestimated the opponent's deck a little bit. But Kicked Fight with Fire or Banefire. I guess Banefire sweeter. As it turns out, we would have found a Disallow with the Azcanta, so we would have been able to survive a burn spell as well. But let's just Banefire our opponent for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Which equals 24 thanks to the Wellspring. Sweet. Alright, so happy with the result. Deck's definitely performing pretty well, although our opponent didn't have the best of starts. Alright, so we're at 5-0. Let's see if we can get the clean sweep here. How does this deck do against the Fairy Fog? I don't think it does very well, although the Fog part of their deck is also pretty useless against you. But I mean, I guess it's pretty close. You both have Azcanta, we have counterspells, they have Planeswalkers. So I guess it would be a fair fight in the end. The Fogs don't really do much against us, so that's the advantage. Alright, how about this hand? Just a pile of removal spells. So against a control deck, this hand's pretty awful. Against an aggro deck, this hand's pretty great. Think we keep and hope we're up against an aggro deck here. Mountain's usually a good sign. Alright, don't mind seeing a turn 1 courier. Disallow is a good pickup. So let's pass with Magma Spray in case we can catch a 2-drop. Scrap Heap Scrounger would be a nice target for this. So I'm fine taking 1 here. What we don't want to see something like a Karizev since that survives Magma Spray. Alright, perfect. So that's the ideal target for Magma Spray. How do you deal with resolved Planeswalkers with this deck? You have a few cards like Lightning Strike that can deal damage to Planeswalkers. Banefire can also deal damage to them. And you also have Commit Memory, which can bounce it, and Blink of an Eye, which can bounce it. But yeah, resolved Planeswalkers are definitely problematic, which is why you have to be using your counterspells wisely. So here we have Abrade for a potential creature, and then next turn we get to keep up Disallow. The slightly awkward part of Fight with Fire is that it's a sorcery, so we can't do the trick where we keep up counterspell, and then end of turn use a removal spell if we don't end up using the counterspell. Alright, opponent's saying go, so now we can just end of turn Abrade, which seems totally fine. Let's destroy an artifact as opposed to deal 3 damage. Never know, opponent could have a pump spell. Is their opponent considering sacrificing it? Alright, they're just gonna shock us and then maybe sacrifice it. Fair enough. Hazoret and 2 Abrades. Hazoret could have been a problem if we didn't have the Disallow. 2 Abrades not super effective against us, so I can understand their decision. But we're not in a bad spot here. 2 removal spells and a Disallow. Just need to find one of our card draw engines to pull ahead. That one will Abrade, keep Disallow for more problematic cards like Rekindling Phoenix or Hazoret or Chandra. And what's the follow-up? Soulscar Mage, that's fine. Can definitely keep Soulscar Mage in play for a couple turns. So I'm not gonna risk using the Fight with Fire here and not having Disallow up for a scarier threat. But we are slowly starting to run out of answers. So this is where finding a Glimmer, an Azcanta would be useful. Alright, so if we use Disallow, then Fight with Fire might not be able to answer with our follow-up, but if we let this resolve, we're kind of priced into casting Fight with Fire next turn on the Chain Whirler, and then we'll be tapped out for a turn, giving the opponent the opportunity to potentially resolve something scary. But I think we're better off risking that one turn and having Disallow in hand as opposed to disallowing this and then having a Fight with Fire. Well, that was pretty much an ideal draw. The only thing it doesn't answer is a Chandra off the top. So Chain Whirler's dead. Still at 13, facing a Soulscar Mage with 2 counterspells in hand. And that's getting Essence Scattered. Still, we're just trading 1 for 1 here, so we're still waiting for our card advantage. So Glimmer would be nice, Azcanta, Conjecture, Divination. I think we're kind of forced to counter this even though there's scarier cards in their deck. But if we miss on a removal spell, then we're just gonna take too much damage. Alright, so this is what I mentioned. With us not finding a source of card advantage. But our opponent's also missing. Top deck scenario against the red deck is pretty scary. Divination was a timely draw. And Conjecture. Alright, so we're going for it here. And we can get back... what do we get back? Probably want to get back Azcanta. Disallow is a more... I guess Disallow is better since we don't get to keep up Azcanta this turn anyway, and we've got plenty of mana. So we have a plan to win the game here. Next turn, or this turn, get back Azcanta, next turn get back Fight with Fire, and then kicked Fight with Fire, and we'll have 10 lands in play. So just need to dodge our opponent top decking something like a Hazoret. Hazoret specifically would be the worst case scenario. We can probably survive everything else. Unless they go double burn spell, I guess. So I think going for Disallow is probably our safest bet. Could also get Magma Spray and try to Magma Spray the Soulscar Mage. But then we still die to Hazoret, I guess that doesn't change. So taking the Magma Spray is safer in the face of double burn spell. But I think we're going with the most general answer in Disallow here. Could be wrong. But if our opponent, let's say, top decks an Ankrop Crasher, then next turn we can always kind of change course and take Fight with Fire and cast it on the spots to kill their creatures instead of trying to deal 20 to them. Alright, no Hazoret, that's good. So we're just taking 1. Alright, that's good too. And Scrap Heap, that's acceptable. Alright, I think we've got this. So now we get back Fight with Fire. And we have exactly enough lands in play already, so should only be taking 4 with Disallow backup, and then next turn kicked Fight with Fire, deal 20 to their face. And I can't think of much that can go wrong here. I guess what you could have is like have just top decked a Hazoret and still have a Lightning Strike in hand, but that doesn't appear to be the case. So we're down to 4. I guess double burn spell would do it. But I imagine they would have used the burn spell to enable prowess. So we're just going for it here and hoping for the best. So 10 to the opponents, double it with Conjecture, 10 again, and hope they don't have 2 burn spells in hand. Nice. Sweet. So managed to beat them on a red deck. Our opening hand was pretty ideal, but there was a spot in the middle there where we were drawing a few too many lands instead of card draw. And we definitely could have lost that game if our opponent top decked something in that window. Alright, last game for all the marbles. Yeah, they knew about the Disallow, so it's definitely reasonable for them if they had 2 burn spells to not cast them for prowess and instead wait for us to tap out for kicked Fight with Fire. We've played against mostly creature decks so far, haven't played against many control strategies. That definitely helps. I think this deck is quite powerful against creature decks, but might struggle a bit more against other strategies. Alright, this hand seems quite good. Better against creature decks, obviously, with Magma Spray and Azcanta, but some lands and a Glimmer with interaction is not bad. Alright, Seeker Squire, I think we want to Magma Spray this with a trigger on the stack before it accumulates a +1/+1 counter. Alright, Gifted Aetherborn, we'll see where they keep that. Dice to our Abrade, and can also Azcanta it. And Disallow was a nice draw, so our hand's shaping up quite well. Alright, opponent appears to be on a mono black deck. And another Seeker Squire. I guess we want to Azcanta the Squire so they don't get any value from it, since if they reveal a land, they get a 2-for-1, since eventually we'll have to answer the Squire. So Azcanta the Squire as opposed to the Aetherborn makes sense, since Abrade answers the Etherborn without giving them any advantage. Right, this could eventually get back a creature. And Doomfall. I think, let's see. So if we let this resolve, they likely take the Disallow, since taking a Glimmer when we have two of them doesn't do much. So protecting the info might be worth it, since we're not using the Disallow on anything else this turn. So sure. Like, there's a chance our opponent takes a Glimmer anyway, which is the thing we want him to do, as opposed to taking the Disallow, so we could give our opponent the opportunity to make a mistake. But giving them the info can also change their play, since if they see that we don't have any counterspells in hand, then they might make a play that they might maybe otherwise not make, if they think we have a counterspell in hand. So there's definitely value to either one of those plays. Etherborn's fine, doesn't hit very hard. And we have the Field of Ruin for the Arch. So our plan is shaping up nicely. Don't mind the Disallow. Don't think we need the Hour of Devastation. We've got Disallow now to answer a Planeswalker as well as commit memory. So let's play the Field of Ruin now. Say go. Yeah, we might kill the Etherborn before it hits us, so they don't get to 22 life, we'll see. I guess if my plan was to Abrade the Etherborn, I should not have played the Field of Ruin, in case they have their own Field of Ruin for our Field of Ruin, so we no longer killed the Arch. I guess that's only a small sacrifice here. So I'll kill the Etherborn just to stay at 20 life. Or mainly to make the opponent stay at 20 life instead of 22. Alright, so far so good. No need to use the Field of Ruin yet, since they haven't gained the City's Blessing yet. They're pretty far from doing so. And there's a chance we might want to Field of Ruin something else, like the Memorial instead. Another Doomfall. So this is similar to the situation of a few turns ago. I guess the exception is that opponent now has 3 mana up, so let's say they Doomfall, take our Disallow. Or let's say they Doomfall, take the Glimmer, then we can still Disallow their follow-up, whereas if we Disallow and they have a follow-up, we don't get to interact with it. Although I guess if we're using a counterspell, we're probably using Commit, since it's a more expensive one. Although the counter-argument is that Commit can bounce something that resolves, whereas Disallow does not. So again, plenty of reasons for either one. I think I'm going to commit this. Reason being that next turn we can Disallow plus Glimmer. Alright, that worked out. Opponent didn't have anything to follow up the Doomfall. As the player with the discard effects, usually what you want to try and do is cast your discard in the same turn as you're trying to cast a threat. But our opponent was happy to fire off the Doomfall anyway. So they redrew the Doomfall, but now we can Disallow it and then still cast Glimmer. So that worked out. Alright, and Banefire. Don't really need Banefire yet. Would rather find something like a Mirari Conjecture. It's not the worst draw ever, but I think I'm bottoming it. Just want to find more card draw engines. Azcanta would be ideal. More Glimmers. Don't think we want to be casting Memory. I don't really care if they get back one of those creatures with Memorial. Could consider cycling main phase to try and hit Azcanta specifically, or Divination. I guess Conjecture would also work, but I still want to keep up Disallow. I guess that's fine. Since we're unlikely to be casting the Sweltering Suns when we have an Abrade in hand. So now I'm going to say go, so we keep up Disallow, and then next turn I can cast Conjecture and still keep up Disallow. And we might consider using Field of Ruin, but again, they're still pretty far away from the City's Blessing. Walking Ballista, that's fine, we can Abrade that. I'm fine taking 3 damage from it. So let's destroy an artifact. Opponent's gonna shoot us for 3. That's fine. And I think we're using the Field of Ruin on the Memorial here, since getting back Ballista is not something we can let happen. And again, they're pretty far away from the City's Blessing, and now that we have Conjecture, we're just gonna outdraw our opponent anyway, so we're fine with them drawing an extra card here or there. Ooh, Azcanta too. While I was talking, I accidentally killed the Arch instead of the Memorial. I meant to kill the Memorial, but I guess this is fine too. Yeah, I was a bit distracted there. It's okay. Alright, so let's refocus for a second. So I think we're just casting Conjecture, keeping a Disallow, and then waiting for Azcanta for 1 turn. Even though flipping Azcanta is nice too. But I think that's the safest line we have available. And now that we have 2 card draw engines, we no longer need to get back Glimmer, and we can either get back an extra Disallow or a Commit Memory. I guess Disallow is slightly better since it's a bit cheaper, and it's unlikely that they get to resolve something here that we would need to bounce with Commit. And having a cheaper counterspell is definitely relevant if we flip Azcanta, since then we can activate Azcanta plus counter. Gonti, we want to Disallow. I think our opponent's probably not too happy at the moment. We've countered pretty much everything they've done. So now we can get back Commit Memory as well. Another reason to get back Disallow last turn. Alright, so let's play Azcanta. Cast a Divination to hit our land drops. Still have Disallow up. And now Commit Memory as well. So we did bottom that Banefire a while ago, so we're unable to close out the game next turn. Unless we get lucky and top deck Banefire or our Fight with Fire. But that's okay. And we probably don't need this, since they can otherwise just activate Memorial in response. Also have the option of disallowing the Memorial trigger for what it's worth, but let's put it in the graveyard. I could have also committed to Conjecture, that's definitely a play we could have made. But at this point, I don't think that's necessary. I will, however, activate Azcanta main phase, just in case we find a draw spell that we can cast with the double effect. And we're just fine playing a control game here. Eventually we'll find a Primal Amulet or another Conjecture. Only 1 Conjecture in the graveyard, so we still have plenty in the deck. So that's getting Essence Scattered. More Essence Scatters in hand. And we're fine using this main phase in case we can find a Divination or a Conjecture. And I don't think we need all 3 counterspells up here. 2 counterspells seem plenty. Alright. And this is just showing how broken Azcanta can be. If our opponent doesn't find the Field of Ruins soon, they're dead, and even if they do, we have the Disallow. And there's our Fight with Fire, but we don't have a doubling effect yet. So we'll be looking for one here. Primal Amulet or our Conjecture would be the draws we're looking for now. And now we just have a million answers in hand. Opponent probably has like Fatal Pushes and Vraska's Contempts in hand that don't do anything. I guess I'll Lightning Strike them, since otherwise we might have to discard to hand size. Alright, we can choose which one we get, I guess. Conjecture's probably the best one, since there's a chance we don't get to flip Amulet if our opponent doesn't cooperate. I think I'll wait a turn on playing the Conjecture, just so we have 1 extra counterspell up. Since tapping 5 mana here would leave us with only 3 mana up, which is only a single counterspell, which might as well play it extra safe here. And I guess we'll get another Disallow, because why not? And I will have to discard a Sweltering Suns to hand size, or an Abrade. That's fine. I guess we'll go with Sweltering Suns. Abrade can maybe kill a Gifted Aetherborn. And it's not gonna take very much longer. Let's get a Divination. And I guess there's no reason to cast anything here. Don't need Divination. Don't need Magma Spray. Probably don't need Abrade. I think our hand's pretty stacked at this point. All the counterspells in the world. That's the Karn. I guess we'll let them have Karn.
I will fight with honor. A curious choice.
I'll give him a Swamp. Alright, Grand Finale coming up. Tenyu, and Tenyu again with Disallow backup. And that should do it. Alright, looks like we got the clean sweep here. I guess by letting them have the... By letting Karn resolve, we gave them the option of using Vraska's Contempt on their own Karn. But it still only would have gained them 2 life since they were at 17, so still not enough to get above 20. But definitely something to keep in mind. And a Lightning Strike as our prize. Alright, sweet, so a nice 7-0 clean sweep with Mirari Conjecture. Didn't have high hopes coming into the event, but seems to be performing quite well, so I like where the deck is at currently. Don't think I would make any changes unless the metagame changes drastically, which I guess will happen with the new set. Alright, sweet. I also want to thank all my patrons for supporting the channel, and you can do so yourself as well over at patreon.com/LegenVD, where you get cool rewards for supporting the channel, as well as getting us closer to our goals, where with every goal reached we will release an additional weekly series, so if you want to see more content, Patreon is the place to go.